traders, happy Tuesday. Thank you guys so much for tuning back into today's video, and as usual, let's jump right into the recap. So as you guys can see from the screen, as far as my overall account, right, it wasn't in the red too much today. I was down $14, but in terms of what I was actively day trading, there was only one thing, and that was TQQQ. So as you guys can see, I was able to walk away with a 1.2% profit today using $10,000, right? So about $120 profit. And so these were all my filled orders. You guys can see I was trading since market open at 6:30, right? And I didn't stop until 7:54. So trading for about an hour and a half today. And so let me go and explain to you guys how I was able to walk away with a profit, even though the overall market is in the red, as you guys can see, right? And just explain to you guys my thought process. So what I saw going on with the NASDAQ, right, was this thing pre-market was consistently forming these lower highs and lower lows. And so what ended up happening at market open was, you guys can see, right, it found a support and started to shoot up and change direction. So once I saw this direction change, right, I initially got in on this spike here with a small dollar amount, right? It was probably around $1,200 just because I knew direction still wasn't clear, and I wasn't going to get in with a heavy position size. So, right, once I saw this thing start to pop up, right, what that indicated to me was there's lots of momentum, but it did eventually end up pulling back. So, on this pull back here, it was very important because it ended up finding a support and ended up actually shooting back up and trading above the EMA, right? So this move here was very important, and once it gapped up huge after selling off down here, right, that was a pretty good indication to me that this thing was going to start to try to form a higher low. And so I began to actually size up a bit here, but I still wasn't in too aggressive because there was always a risk this thing could have gotten rejected right around the middle VWAP and continue to sell off, right, the way it was pre-market. So I wasn't playing it too aggressive here. The move that really made me the most money was this play here. So once I saw this thing finally break above the middle VWAP, it pulled on back, and then I actually missed this nice move here to size up. But once I did see this thing size up, I knew that there was potential for it to hit the top VWAP, right? Doesn't mean it has to, but I definitely saw potential. So once I saw this thing, finish consolidating and start to form these green candles, that's when I really began to size up, and I cut majority of my position up here. So around this point, I was already, up a decent amount, but, probably around the amount I ended up today. But a big mistake I made today, guys, was I actually left 25% of my position size running. And so as you guys can see, right, that eventually did not play out well for me. So I ended up giving back a lot of the profit back before I ended up cutting the loss, right? And I eventually ended up making it back once I gave this thing time to find a support right around these lower areas, right? And once I saw this thing actually start to change direction, right, that's when I got back into TQQQ and wrote this thing back up, and I, decided to lock in profits around this area again, right? And so that's a big mistake because of the fact that next time I'm in this position, I'm definitely not going to be in with 25% or leave myself with 25%, right? I think looking back at it, I should have definitely left myself with only about a 10% position size, right? Because of this exact situation. 10% is enough where I'm still in the, have some skin in the game, where if it were to continue to run, I would still, be reaping that benefit. But if this thing were to completely change direction the way it did, 10% of a position size wouldn't completely wreck me, right? 25% definitely did a lot more damage, and so it sucked that I gave back a lot of profit, and ultimately I was able to recover it. But imagine next time I'm able to be in with less, and so if it were to pull on back, I can cut losses and then really feel encouraged to ride this thing back up, right, with a heavier position. Because by that point, I was pretty much fed up with the fact that I wasn't able to necessarily potentially ride this thing back up for profit, right? And so it did suck, and as you guys can see, it ended up happening here again. And so that's where I definitely went wrong today. Or this was actually the push that made me money, not this one. My apologies, but it was the same concepts, right? But ultimately, right, as you guys can see, this thing was just trading sideways, so definitely very choppy. But as long as you traded the high points and the low points, it could have definitely given you at least some form of range to trade off of, right? And what really made me indicate that this thing was going to potentially try to hit top VWAP was we had a really big green day yesterday, right? And so there was lots of buying pressure, or there has been the past, few weeks. And so given that, I knew that it doesn't mean that we necessarily had to pull back very aggressively right away, right? There was always a chance that we would try to potentially push up again and trade, very choppy the way we did today. So that's why I thought that we were going to have more of a choppy-ish day, be trading sideways, and that is what we ended up seeing. But as you guys can see, heading to market close, what did we actually see? The market ended up shooting up drastically, and then now we have been selling off in the after hours. So you definitely want to ask yourself why this type of movement occurred, and it's because Microsoft and lots of other companies have been reporting earnings, right? So as you guys can see, Microsoft ended up shooting up, and it's already back at the price point even lower than it was at during market close, right? So definitely not, the best news there, because as you guys know, lots of these big companies will be reporting their earnings this week, and if they are negative, they can drive the market down itself. So that's why we definitely want to make sure that we stay up to date with these reports. As you guys can see, as I provided yesterday for you guys too, there's a website you can go to, and it pretty much just tells you on each day, right, the earnings that are going to be coming out. So tomorrow we do have Tesla after market, right at market close, they are going to report these earnings here, as you guys can see, right? And then on Thursday, for example, you guys can see we have these companies like Visa, MasterCard, and on Friday, right, Chevron and a few others as well. So you guys can take a look at that for yourself. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover in today's video, right? Lesson of the day for me is definitely, if I'm, know something's overbought and I'm still in, leave myself with a very, very light amount, right, of a position size, maybe like 10%. But yep, thank you guys so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to drop a comment. I'm more than happy to break down any stock or stock indicator for you. All you need to do is ask in the comments below. But that's pretty much everything. I will be posting a recap tomorrow, and I will see you guys then. So take care and have a good rest of your day.